Hi, this is Stephen from Owen at Dishome. In today's video, I'm reviewing the new 2021 Lenovo Legion 7 with the Ryzen 7 5800H and 130W RTX 3060, which should start for about $1,669. I will compare it to the Legion 5 Pro with the exact same specs. Lenovo does sell the 2TB model of the 5 Pro for $1,700, although you can find the 512GB model for about $1,500. They also listed 2TB 3070 model for $1,960, but Walmart lists the 512GB one for only $1,530, which is the deal of the century. Now, is the Legion 7 worth buying over the Legion 5 Pro? Well, before we answer that question, a quick word from our sponsor, CKD Deals. CKD Deals sells discounted PC game keys, iTunes and PlayStation gift cards, as well as super cheap Microsoft Office and OEM Windows 10 keys. Now, some of you may be suspicious of the validity of these keys, which I do understand. So I did buy a Windows 10 Pro key myself, and I typed in slmgr/DLV via the command prompt, and the key had a rearm amount of 1001, which supports what CKD Deals told me, that their Windows keys are OEM keys and not volume licensing keys. I have also received feedback from several other people saying that they have bought keys from them in the past and all has been good. Now, purchasing is easy. You click on the links in the description and enter the code OWD25 for 25% off. And you can have Windows 10 Pro for only $16, or if you wish, combine it with Office 2019 for only $53. Activate the key either during the Windows installation or within the activation settings once you boot up. Both the Legion 5 Pro and the Legion 7 use the same 16-inch 16:10 165Hz 500 nit panel. That, in my opinion, is the star of the show. The colours are good and viewing angles are brilliant as compared to my 300 nit MSI GE66. The image is much more vibrant when viewed from the side or even from above. Despite the larger screen and the extra vertical pixels, it's about the same size as most 15.6-inch laptops. Sure, 16:9 movie content will have black bars at the top and the bottom, but in gaming I find it more immersive, and in this shot of Cyberpunk 2077 it even shows a little bit more of the image. And to be honest with you, I found gaming on a 16-inch 16:10 panel more enjoyable than on a regular 16:9 15-inch laptop, and I don't see myself going back. Ghosting was also pretty good, not quite as good as say a 300Hz panel, but the backlight speed was excellent. The panel also has G-Sync in dedicated GPU mode, but you can also switch to hybrid mode to save battery life and use FreeSync, which has a range of 60 to 165 Hz. You do get a lower frame rate in hybrid mode, as you can see here in Cyberpunk 2077 at 2560 by 1600, using ray tracing set at ultra and DLSS set to performance. Now, this is using the performance power mode preset. The frame rate drops from 48 in dedicated GPU mode down to 42 FPS in hybrid mode, which puts it just above the quiet power mode setting when just using the RTX 3060. For reference, I also show how it performs at 1080p. The Legion 7 and the 5 Pro results are in yellow, and as one would expect, since they both use the same RTX 3060, performance is about the same, and close to a 100W 3070 that uses Optimus. In Shadow of the Tomb Raider 2560 by 1600 DX12 using higher settings, the 5800H seems to be running a bit cooler in hybrid mode, but again we do take a bit of a frame hit, from 69 FPS down to 65. So in general, hybrid mode will give performance just below the balanced power mode profile in dedicated GPU mode. At 1080p, the 130W RTX 3060 is behind the 2070 Super and the 2080 Super Max Q, but is not far behind the 100W 3080 in the Helios 300. Battery life on the Legion 7 was a bit of a mixed bag, even in hybrid mode. You can switch the screen refresh rate from 165Hz to 60Hz by pressing the FN and R key, which did save me about an hour. And at 28% brightness and using quiet mode, I squeaked out 5 hours 20 minutes compared to over 7 hours on the Legion 5 Pro, despite both having the same 80Wh battery. Now, the screen brightness does drop off a cliff below 75%, so if you use around about 50% brightness, you can see somewhere around about 3 hours, which I thought was a little bit disappointing. The underside of both the Legion 7, which is on the left, and the Legion 5 Pro on the right, are made of aluminium. The air intakes on the 5 Pro are larger. The Legion 7 does have a more of a cleaner look and probably less risk of fluff being sucked into the system. Both have 2 RAM slots, which they say maxes out at 32GB, but that's probably as configured. I'm sure you can actually add 2 32GB DIMMs should you wish. Now underneath this aluminium plate, you have the Wi-Fi 6 card and an M.2 card, same as on the 5 Pro. The speakers fire down at the front and are actually larger on the Legion 7, although both are around about the same at 72 decibels and sound pretty similar with a good range. Both have 2 fans and 4 heatsinks. Now the big difference in the Legion 7, it has a vapor chamber, and this does seem to help as shown by my Cinebench R20 results. Both the 5 Pro and the Legion 7 use the same amount of CPU watts in the 3 power modes, 20 to 25 watts in quiet mode, 54 watts in balanced and 80 watts in performance. In balance with the same power pull, the Legion 7 is 6 degrees cooler. And in gaming, such as here in Cyberpunk 2077, the 3060 is about 5 degrees cooler and the 5800H about 3 degrees. And it must be pointed out that the ambient temperature when testing the Legion 7 was 74 degrees Fahrenheit or 23 degrees Celsius versus about 20 degrees Celsius on the Legion 5 Pro. Far Cry New Dawn is a good game to check the thermals. And at quiet mode, the CPU is at 25 watts and 79 degrees, and the 3060 is at 80 watts and 67 degrees. Balance mode sees the 5800H use 35 watts and 94 degrees, which was much higher than the 5 Pro, but like I said, the ambient temperature is also higher. And the 3060 uses 120 watts and 76 degrees. I also show the fan noise for each power profile, and at no time did I find the fan noise particularly loud. Even performance at 50 decibels was okay. The extra fan speed in performance mode does help bring temperatures down, so if you do live in a warmer climate, I suggest using either quiet mode at the expense of frame rate or using performance mode. And if you're particularly sensitive to fan noise, I do recommend sticking with the Legion 5 Pro, as its fans were 5 decibels quieter across all 3 power modes. The keyboard layout is the same, and I had no issues with the trackpad being accidentally activated. The Legion 7 does have some air intakes above the keyboard. And in terms of chassis temperatures, the keys are similar, but the Legion 7 is definitely cooler underneath. The Legion 7 has an all aluminium build, whilst the 5 Pro is made out of plastic apart from its base. The Legion 7 does have a cleaner look to it, so it would be more suitable as a dual purpose work and gaming laptop. Both do have a logo that lights up. It's more subtle on the Legion 7, the lighting of which can be turned off and on using the FN and L key, although it didn't seem to work on my Legion 7. I've always been a great fan of the ports lighting up at the rear. So much easier to see which port is which in the dark. The lighting can be turned off and on using the FN and U key. Now, port selection is identical at the rear. The USB-C port supports power delivery and can be used to charge a laptop, and both use an HDMI version 2.1, which is the latest spec, allowing 4K at 120Hz. You have a second USB-C port on the left, and the only difference being that the Legion 5 Pro has a USB Type-A on the right versus a third USB-C on the Legion 7. And both have a switch to disable the webcam. And the webcam is the same on both units. So 720p webcam, of course, located at the top. Actually, the microphone does a decent job. And also got a lot of fans going on, AC units and that type of thing. It doesn't pick that up, so that's pretty nice. And this is what it's like when it's typing. All in all, it's okay. Another major difference for the Legion 7 is its RGB lighting. It can be turned off if you don't want it, but for those that love that extra bling, they do a good job. It is reminiscent of the MSI GE66 in a way, but I think I do prefer it slightly, and it is very easy to control using the iQ software. The 5 Pro weighs 5 pounds 11 ounces, whilst the Legion 7 weighs a bit less at 5 pounds 9 ounces. But both use the same huge 330 watt power brick, bringing the Legion 7 travel weight to 7 pounds 7 ounces. But of course, you can always use a smaller USB-C charger if you don't plan to do that much gaming. Although the 5800H in the Legion 7 was quite solid in the Cinebench R20 that I did, it did disappoint it in Geekbench 5. The multi-core performance was behind the 4800H, although the single core score was up there with the 5900HS. Turning to a longer running handbrake encode, it was slightly slower than the 4800H, which was strange, but at least it was faster than my Intel i9-10980HK. Now, to play Assassin's Creed Valhalla at the native resolution of 2560 by 1600, you do need to drop to very high settings, and you do get decent frame rates. But drop it to 1080p and trying to use ultra high settings, I did notice that the performance does drop through the floor. At first, I thought it was the low 6GB of VRAM, since at ultra high we are getting close to the limit. But the Gigabyte G5 was okay with its 105W 3060. Whilst 3D Mark shows that the 130W 3060 is better than the one in the G5. So should you buy the Legion 7 or the Legion 5 Pro? Well, if you don't want the RGB lighting, I do think it makes sense to get the Legion 5 Pro. You get the same screen, cooling is slightly worse, but that fan noise is lower and performance is the same. Unless you opt for the 3080 model, which is unavailable on the 5 Pro. And both have G-Sync and a mux switch, but the 5 Pro should be cheaper, and to be honest, I don't feel much difference between the build quality of the two. And to be honest, I also like having the extra USB Type A port on the 5 Pro and the slightly better battery life. Still, there's no denying that the Legion 7 is a beautiful machine. Now, if you did find my video of value, consider subscribing, as I have a lot more laptop reviews coming forward. Thanks for watching. Bye now.